it's been holding a fever, and it's a toxin, and the body's trying to burn it up to neutralize the poisons by burning that up. There's the fever. So the tissue around that becomes very irritated and inflamed. So that's diverticulitis. So the best way to get those out is the marshmallow pepsin. I have people do it for like 3 months. And if they've had a problem with that, once a year for 3 months, you're on marshmallow and pepsin. Because what's going to happen once you get those cleaned out, within about 9 months, you're going to have some of them filled back up again.
So it's almost like a preventative maintenance.
Well, it is, because it's there, and it is going to be a problem if you neglect it. So 35 grams of fiber a day will really keep everything cleaned out very, very well, and keep the walls of the intestinal tract clean as well, and no buildup on that, so that you don't have to worry about chronic degenerative problems that are diagnosed 20, 30 years after complaining about your intestinal tract bothering you so much. So, it's just that thing is when it's acute, it's, your body is in pain. It's saying, hey, hello, I need some attention here. I don't, this is not functioning right. Then you start doing all your over-the-counter stuff and things to just quiet it down, pain pills, things like that, to like shut it off so that you're not feeling it. So you're suppressing it. That's the beginning of the suppression. You go from the acute, your body letting you know that something's wrong, to then taking things that suppress it. And then pretty soon, long enough suppressed, it becomes a chronic condition. And then it becomes a degenerative condition. And when it becomes a degenerative condition is usually when you get the diagnosis. And if it's in the degenerative condition, what's the cellular activity like going on around that area? It's not good.
Probably chaotic.
Yeah. So, but hey, I've seen some pretty amazing things. That's why when I went through what I did with my liver a year ago, I knew what I knew was the truth. I knew God had my back. I was well versed in His kingdom. I'd had people over the years come to me. And the majority of the time, I was the last resort. I wasn't the first, I wasn't the first thing that they wanted to do. And, hey, when somebody's sent home to die and told to put their affairs in order, and 60 days later they have a clean bill of health, I knew exactly what I was going to do.
Right.
And, in 3 weeks, no more tumor, gone. And, it's still amazing, and a year later, it's like it's completely, totally gone. And so it can be done. It can be done. But, you just really have to have that mindset that you are going to conquer and overcome.
Okay, well,
you are.
And that's the thing. You got to have that mindset.
You have to have the mindset. You are going to
overcome and conquer. Not that doctor, because that doctor is not
fear.
there to cure you.
The fear,
It is a fear that the doctor is to do no harm.
Fear. Yeah.
So,
well, I'm blessed in that, this has been my life's work. I've been involved with alternative healing since I was 21.
Wow.
So, I came from a heavily steeped medical family and had I still have a respect for the medical field. And, there's times when, hey, you don't need an herbalist. You need a doctor.
Well,
sure.
But
absolutely. It's like, I've never really had a phone call where, well, I think they have a compound fracture, and how am I going to set this? What herbs would you use? It's like, don't call me. You need the ER right now. I'm not going to be responsible for that one. Are you kidding me?
No. Like we've always advocated, I mean, there will be a time that you will need an actual doctor, I mean.
Absolutely.
But, other than that, they are kind of like the government. They need to have a limited role.
Mm-hmm.
Not, be your, go-to every time.
Yeah. Well, and that's where, it's kind of back to that. You have to be an advocate for yourself or for your family.
Right.
You have to read labels. You have to be aware of what's going on, because what we're going through with our food supply is not something that our grandparents dealt with. It's just not. I loved going out to my father's family's farm. And, so much was grown right there at the farm. And, we're talking, my aunt and uncle, they are still alive. And they're in their very late 90s.
Wow.
And they ate very well. And it was just, it's simple. It's like what Dr. Jensen taught. Simple. Eat food as close to natural as possible. Minimal amount of cooking. If you do have, like I said, the 80% alkaline, that's your vegetables and your fruits, and then your 20% is your cheeses and your meats. Okay, that's going to give you that 20% acid. Our bloodstream is 80% alkaline, 20% acid. So it's a balance of the food for the diet that is exactly what the bloodstream needs to have in order to be nutrient dense and to be able to pass on the nutrients as it moves through the system. So, the thing is that, again, we have to be our own advocate. We have to read labels. We have to teach. It's like this morning. I was making my granddaughter's making her lunch for school. And I offered her 2 types of bread. And I said, okay, I've got this organic wheat, but then I've got this other one here that is, which one do you want? It's got a bigger piece of bread, but it has, it's organic sprouted, and it has some seeds and nuts in it. And she says, Grandma, which one is healthier for me? She's in 3rd grade. She's 9. Which one's healthier for me, Grandma? And I says, well, this one that's the sprouted, and has the seeds and the nuts in it. She says, then that's what I want. And she went about, getting her stuff together to get in her book bag, backpack. I don't know. I'm corrected on it all the time from him. No, Grandma, it's a whatever. And it's like, yeah, well, it's a book bag. So, backpack. So, anyway, that's what I'm talking about. The children have to know at an early age. People used to say with my son Daniel, oh, well, you do all of this with him and you make everything homemade and, he drinks goat milk and he eats his herbs. Hey, Danny wanted to learn how to swallow his herbs when he was 3. He was sick of extracts. He did. Wow. He'd take those extracts down, and the faces he made were, if we lived in a time with all of the pictures and stuff, I mean, I could have really posted some great facial expressions with some of the liquid herbs that I would give him when he was little. So he was real anxious to learn how to swallow capsules. And but people would give me a hard time about that. But I have to say, Daniel's a father, and he has a 2.5-year-old. And all of that he learned growing up, he is meticulous with his 2.5-year-old daughter. Wow. And there's no allowance whatsoever for any garbage in her diet. It's not happening. And so she's also been extremely, extremely healthy. Very, very, very well. So, okay, some of the things, memory and brain function. We get into leaky gut syndrome. We get into all these bowel problems. We've heard that the brain that the bowel is the second brain.
Really?
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
No,
It said that the bowel is the second brain. So I'm not going to repeat it, but immediately, a few sayings, come to mind. It's like, yeah, that'd be about right. That would be about right. So, anyway, okay. So, brain fog, memory problems, can be a sign of poor digestion, poor elimination. We talked about the leaky gut syndrome and the other irritable bowel syndrome, colitis. Crohn's disease is like advanced colitis, to where that's been going on for a long time. Eczema. Eczema has a lot to do with not assimilating your fats real well. And so coconut oil is something that is fantastic for putting on the skin and getting those nutrients into the skin to heal that area. But then coconut oil, you can take a teaspoon of that daily, or a teaspoon twice a day. Or if you're doing smoothies or anything like that, throw a teaspoon of coconut oil into whatever you're using to blend that up, and then blend that up with it. If you take coconut oil and you just put it in like one of those shakers where you've got your cold water and you've added in your, whatever nutrient powder you're using. I love the Love and Peas is what it's called, and Nature's Harvest is actually my favorite. It's a green drink. You can get that on Kingdom of Healing. But if you Nature's Harvest, it's green. Everything in it. Did it come out of a green a package? Yeah. Excellent product. And a really good friend of mine who is also a naturopath is the one who developed that product, and she lives here in Colorado. And their whole family is vegan and incredible. The kids are well and they look fantastic, and there's so much energy, and they're here and there, and they're posting pictures from this country and that country, and it's pretty cool. But I love that product. But what I'm saying is, if you take coconut oil and you put like a teaspoon of that into just something you're going to shake that up with cold water, that's not really going to blend that coconut oil up well enough. It's going to get kind of lumpy and chunky. So if you've got a blender or a Blendtec, I use a Blendtec. I don't use a Vitamixer. I use a Blendtec mixer. And put everything into that, throw that teaspoon of that coconut oil in there, and it just makes it very smooth. And one thing is by adding that good fat to that, and then all those nutrients that are in that, you go hours where you don't have any hunger pang at all. And some people think, oh, I'm going to do a protein drink and I'm going to be starving in an hour or two. Absolutely not. Sometimes it's like, whoa, wait a minute, I haven't had anything, and so I'm really not hungry, so I'll make another protein drink, because you can get into trouble by not eating.
Right. And not eat, right.
Because what happens then when you do eat, your body says, okay, hey, you starve me on a regular basis.
Exactly.
So when you eat this time, I'm sorry, I'm taking all of that and I'm converting it all to fat.
Because you know what? People don't realize that if, to go on a real diet, okay, to start eating right,
Crash.
You're not going to just eat 3 meals a day. You're going to eat 5 smaller meals a day, and you're going to stay satisfied throughout the whole day. So, a diet is a perception that needs to be changed of what a diet means, because a diet does not mean starving yourself, starving your body. It's so much more than that. I mean...
Yeah. And so it's very true. And it's like there was a diet going around about 5 years ago that somebody was talking about, well, you take about 10 drops of this. And But then you go on a 500 calorie diet and it's like 500 calories. Do you know that your brain, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your